Liv Titor and her sister are driving out of Brisbane, Australia. They're heading south along the Gold Coast to one of their favorite beaches, Fingal Head.
It's just a beautiful place. I always loved it. In a low tide, it's exposed all the little creatures and beautiful rocks.
Those rocks and craggy dark cliffs are a big part of what makes Fingal Head a stunning beach. Liv and her sister can't wait to get in the water. She takes a few steps into the shallows.
But then it dropped a little bit. It was still just maybe above my knees, but I could feel the grip around my legs, and it just took me.
Liv is caught in a rip current. It's pulling her around the jagged headland into rough water.
I couldn't resist, I couldn't do anything. It was so strong, it just kind of taken me out into the ocean.
I'm Tora Kachur, and this is Tell Me What Happened, true stories of people helping people, an original podcast by OnStar. Every day when you wake up, you don't know if you'll be a person who needs help or if you'll be a person that helps someone else. It's important to remember that it's in all of us to be either one of those things every day. Liv is from Ukraine. She moved to Australia when she was 17.
It was a tough move for me because I left everything behind at the time when all my friends and still my family there in Kiev. It was a big adjustment, especially with language barrier. Definitely still have my accent. I don't think I'll ever lose it.
But Liv quickly discovered how much she loved living near the ocean.
Just that feeling of freedom and flying through it, catching the wave and swimming. Yeah, it's just amazing.
And Fingal Head Beach in New South Wales is one of her favorite spots.
It's like volcanic rock and a lighthouse on the top.
The old lighthouse sits on a rocky headland that juts out into the ocean, splitting the shore into two beaches. And the waves at this section of the coastline can be powerful.
You can just see the force of nature, like all those waves just crashing on these rocks. I always loved it.
And that's where Liv and her sister Olena headed in April 2023. Their first stop, the lighthouse.
There's like a panoramic view, kind of. Yeah, I took lots of photos and videos and just admired the scene. I just remember seeing how rough the ocean was that morning, and the waves were like a thunder to the rocks.
Then the sisters walked to Dreamtime Beach on the right side of the headland.
And then, as usual, we just went to have a swim.
Dreamtime Beach isn't patrolled by lifeguards, but Liv had been swimming in the area many times before. She also noticed other people enjoying the water.
And in my mind, I automatically thought, oh yes, so people are coming out of the water and it's okay.
So Liv went for a dip.
And my sister did the same. But then I walked out and I thought, oh, I really want to go to the rock.
The rock sticks out of the water right beside the headland.
I could kind of see a bit of like water swooshing around it, but it was very shallow, so it didn't alert me.
Liv waded in a few steps.
And I could feel that I'm going into a little bit of hole. I sinked in a little bit to the sand.
Then she felt the force of the current.
I could feel water swirling around my legs and pulling me. But it happened so quickly, it was just like milliseconds.
Liv tried to react.
I thought, oh, can I grab to the rock? What can I do?
But the current was moving too fast, dragging her out to sea.
I did try to swim back, and somebody was yelling from the beach like, yeah, keep kicking, keep swimming.
After a few seconds, Liv realized that her kicking and swimming wasn't helping.
I quickly realized I'm gonna lose my strength and I can't fight it. It's just taking me out. It was so strong. I felt like I had no control.
She was being pulled further and further away from shore.
I just turned around to the shore to let people know that I'm in trouble. And I saw people noticing me from the beach. I saw my sister in panic. I thought, is this it? Am I gonna die today?
This is Tell Me What Happened, a podcast created by OnStar to showcase the importance of a human connection when you need help. Whether you're attacked by a wild animal, trapped in a burning building, or minutes away from drowning. Liv was dragged out to sea by a rip current. She tried to swim back to shore, but the pull was too strong. She was in a dangerous spot and at serious risk of drowning, unless someone came to her rescue.
Johnny Matthew Gordon is my name, but my nickname's been Gordo the Great. It sounds pretty vain, but I didn't give myself the name.
Johnny earned that nickname while working as a camera operator on the World Surf League for 20 years. The job took him all over the world to places like South Africa, Tahiti, Hawaii, and Brazil.
You know, I sort of lived the dream, made the vocation the vacation. So I'm a world tourer and I'm a dead keen surfer myself, so I love having a paddle.
But on that day in April, Johnny was not feeling great. He'd recently lost his job.
I was at a really low moment.
He was also thinking about a recent tragic incident at a local beach.
We lost a guy. I'm hanging in the car park and I could see them pulling a guy into the sandbank. So I've run down and we just did the compression, and I was really bummed we lost that chap and his family's right there. It was horrible.
Johnny needed a distraction. He hadn't been to Fingal Head for 10 years. So when his son asked him for a ride somewhere close by, he thought it would be a good chance to clear his mind.
It's like you've been cleansed, and like you're paddling out like there's free beer and a barbecue out there. You're like, yeah, I want to get out there.
And that's what Johnny was planning to do that day, until he actually got into the water.
The swell on this day was like 6 feet. It was massive. And I've gone and paddle out, and I kept paddling. You know, I'm going flipping backwards sort of thing, so I'm not even going to bother with it. So I've just done a U-E and paddled in.
So Johnny went for a quick swim instead. Back on the beach, he was getting ready to leave when he glanced over and saw Liv walking towards the rock.
She was only like in knee-deep water, and she's taken one step, and it was like into a hole, and it was like underwater jiu-jitsu, mate. It's like, bang, gotcha. And she was travelling.
Johnny knew right away that Liv was in big trouble.
Well, I know she's in the most dangerous spot in this region. She's heading straight to the cheese grater.
The cheese grater. Johnny's talking about a jagged volcanic rock sticking out of the water just below the lighthouse on Fingal Head. He knows Liv is heading straight for it.
I swear, mate, within about, 8 seconds, she was out of frame. She was around the corner.
Then Johnny spots Liv's sister.
The colours just running from their face. They were looking at me and I'm looking at them, but there was nothing said.
There were lifeguards at another nearby beach. Johnny thought about calling one of them for help.
And I'm going, no, the rip's too gnarly. By the time I even give them a hands up, this chick's done.
He remembered the man he couldn't save a few weeks earlier.
After losing the chap a couple of weeks before, it was just like, not on my watch, I'm going to give it my best shot. It was like an instinct to me to just go, jump on right now.
Johnny strapped his surfboard to his ankle, tucked it under his arm, and ran into the water.
I just saw this person jump on the surfboard towards me.
Johnny paddled out using the force of the rip current to get to Liv as fast as he could.
I was telling myself to, you know, don't worry about yourself, you got a job to do, stay focused and just do it, mate, you know.
When he reached Liv,
I said, hey, we got this. This is nothing. I've been bitten by a mosquito harder than this. I promise you, we're both going home.
And then he tried to make a joke that we're gonna have a drink together.
Johnny pulled Liv onto the front of his surfboard. He knew he needed to keep her calm.
I said, the only thing that'll bite us on the arse is if you freak out.
I thought, oh, why is he saying that? Not realizing that we still will be taken to the rocks.
The rip was pulling them towards the rocks at the base of Fingal Head.
This deadly cliff with, 6-foot waves belting against the cliff with massive backwash.
Johnny told Liv to lay down on the front of the board and paddled into the waves.
It's like trying to fight Hercules or something. You just can't swim against it. It's got you, and you're going somewhere you don't want to go.
But Johnny, he just kept talking to me, and I just concentrated on him totally.
They braced themselves as wave after wave hit them.
Massive waves belting down 12 feet from the rocks.
The waves would knock me and Johnny off, and just being under the water, the waves were so harsh.
Imagine 500 buckets of water coming down from a great height. It was a life and death situation.
Every time Johnny and Liv got knocked off the surfboard, they managed to swim back to it and climb on. But they were getting closer and closer to the rocks.
When we were under those cliffs, you could see in her face, you could just see it, mate.
The look Johnny saw in Liv's face, terror.
That was a terrifying moment. The wave took me up really, really high, and at that second I thought, can I actually hang on to the rock? But I couldn't do anything. I just fell down.
And it's like the worst road rash you've ever had. You've got the impact, and you've got all the jagged bits where an elbow or an ankle can be caught.
But cuts and scrapes were the least of Johnny's worries.
Only got to get like a smack on your temple, and bang, you're out for a couple of seconds, and then you'd be doomed.
The waves continued to pummel Liv and Johnny near the cliffs.
And I just braced myself. So every time we were getting under the water or onto the rocks, it was just like this repetitive horror.
But they weren't even at the most dangerous spot. The rip was pulling them towards the tip of the headland, where a small opening in the rock leads to a narrow channel.
And it's this gnarly, gnarly spot. And I'm guaranteed if you got sucked in there, you're done, mate.
I did think, is this it? Am I gonna die today?
At this point, they'd been in the water for 10 exhausting minutes. The waves kept pounding.
Johnny would tell me, this is the big one. He would give me instructions to say, paddle now, paddle quickly.
Then Johnny saw a break in the waves. He knew it would only last a few seconds. It was their chance to escape the current and paddle out of the danger zone to the beach on the other side of Finglehead.
I just stuck my head down, and she did the same. We were in sync, and we just paddled like flipping gladiators, and we're actually making ground. I was screaming, go, go, we got this.
They escaped the current and emerged on the calmer side of the headland.
It was like bang, that relief, like finally out of jail, we pulled it off.
They were exhausted. A surprised surfer spotted them and helped them paddle into the beach.
As I was walking out of the ocean, I was saying, is this it? Are we okay? Am I okay?
Johnny and Liv were lucky to be alive. They escaped with only minor injuries, just a few scrapes and bruises. They landed on a beach that was patrolled by lifeguards. One lifeguard who witnessed the rescue told them at least 6 people had drowned at Finglehead in the last few years. Liv found a phone and called her sister.
And said, I'm okay, it's over, everything's okay, I'm okay. And she was crying and she couldn't believe it.
Liv and Johnny hugged and exchanged numbers and took photos with people on the beach who'd witnessed the rescue. One of the lifeguards showed them drone footage of the rescue.
And I looked at the footage going, shit, it was bigger than I thought, it was scary as shit.
I realized later that he knew the risk he was taking by jumping after me. And I'm so grateful to him for that. He just risked his own life, pretty much.
The rescue created a real bond between Johnny and Liv. In the weeks after, Liv struggled with guilt.
I got a little bit depressed afterwards. I kind of was just the disappointment of myself, being in that situation, exposing other people like Johnny and putting my sister through the stress of it and my family.
A few months after the rescue, Liv told Johnny how she was feeling. Then she asked for his help.
I told him, I think I have the fear of water and I've never swam after that day. And I don't know if I can do it. And he said, let's go together.
This time, they went to a beach where lifeguards regularly patrolled the waters.
And as soon as I stepped into the water, I was like, oh, I have this feeling, like this kind of tumble feeling.
Johnny reassured Liv everything would be okay. He held her hand and encouraged her to dive in with him.
She goes under the water and then came up and then did it a couple of times. She wanted to stay out there. She was stoked. So she certainly got blood in one arm and salt water in the other.
I remember when we dived together under the wave and I was coming out, I was like, oh, I felt like this weight lifted off my shoulders. I felt so much better. Johnny did help me remember the joy of water.
But Johnny thinks Liv is the one who helped him.
I was half a shattered man after, losing the other chap and then losing my job for nothing. And after I saved Liv, I haven't had a bad thought, mate. I didn't save Liv, she saved me.
Today, Johnny and Liv are good friends. They've met each other's families and they give presents on birthdays and Christmas. More than a year after the rescue, Johnny is still trying to protect Liv.
She's got a new boyfriend and they come down the other day and I was like the uncle going, do the right thing, buddy boy. She's got back up around here, mate. She might be from the Ukraine, but she's a kangaroo now.
Liv is confident she wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Johnny. But more than that, she knows her life is better because he's in it.
It's just his whole energy and how he is, his personality. He kind of like lifts up your spirits every time you're around him. And he's an amazing person. There's never a dull moment when you're with him. And I feel like I'm very lucky just to have him in my life.
A day at the beach is usually full of sun, fun, and surf, so it's easy to forget that the ocean is extremely powerful, and if you don't take the proper precautions, dangerous. One of the biggest dangers is rip currents. Kelsey Cummings is a member of the California Surf Lifesaving Association and a competitive lifeguard in LA County. Kelsey has helped many people out of trouble at the beach. So how do you know if a beach has a rip current?
Most people are just not familiar with the ocean, so they just don't know what rip currents look like. You can kind of see the water pulling out. The water will typically be a little bit brown and murky and not as many waves breaking. And so they'll be swimming, they'll be standing on a sandbar, and they might accidentally step into a rip current and they're just unaware. It'll be nice and shallow. And if you just step a few steps to the left or to the right, there could be a hole, what we call inshore holes, and those generally feed into rip currents. So an inshore hole is just where the sand has been dug out based on the ocean conditions. And you could be standing on the sandbar, it's only waist deep, and then a few steps to the right and you're in a hole and you're neck deep. And those holes generally, they feed into the rip current. The water starts to move. When it's deeper, it'll actually be part of the rip current and then you could get yourself into trouble.
Are rip currents always in the same place or can they change spots?
A lot of beaches do have rip currents located in specific areas. In California, we have a lot of storm drains, and that will kind of dig out the sand in that area, and that will cause a rip current. Piers and jetties are known to always have rip currents next to them just because of the way the sand moves. But the holes are really changing every day based on the ocean conditions, where the sand has been moving because of the waves and the currents and everything.
What are you supposed to do if you're getting caught in a rip current?
The best thing to do is to swim parallel to shore. So if you feel yourself getting pulled out, if you just try to swim in, most people are not quite the strongest swimmers to swim against the rip current, and you'll be swimming for quite a long time and you'll begin to get fatigued. So we tell everyone to swim parallel to shore, either north or south. But you could be swimming for a while until you get into safer water. The best thing to do is to just, as hard as it is to say, to stay calm, signal for help, and then if you feel like you're getting pulled out, to swim parallel to shore. The best way to just be raise your arms, shake them above your head. Generally, a lifeguard will be watching and they know the signs of drowning.
And what would be your top tips for people to stay safe in the ocean?
I would tell people to always swim near an open lifeguard tower. So always check in with the lifeguard and ask them where the safest place to swim is. Remember that the ocean is a very hazardous environment and to always swim within your abilities. So if you know you're not the strongest swimmer, to probably want to stay waist deep. Don't push yourself to swim out past the large waves if you know it's not within your ability.
That's it for this episode of OnStar's Tell Me What Happened, true stories of people helping people. If you want to share your own story about a stranger who showed up for you at just the right moment, look for a link at onstar.com. Or if you're listening on Spotify, check out the Q&A feature. Let's share some love for people who help others in big ways and small. While you're at it, share some love for this podcast. It really helps if you review and rate us or share this with someone who would enjoy it. On behalf of OnStar, I'm Tora Couture. Please, be safe out there.